Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be going through all 60 of the Disney classics here that have been released in the UK. So just to set the ground rules with this one, I will be going through the UK list of Disney classic animated movies. I know the US list is a little bit different to the UK one. So with the UK one, you aren't going to see the movies like Dinosaur and I think the 2011 Winnie the Pooh film. Those films, for whatever reason, just aren't on the UK list. I'm not sure why, but it is what it is. So yeah, this is pretty much my Blu-ray and DVD collection of all 60 movies that have been released from Disney. And yeah, I have an absolute blast with these movies. I don't think there is one person out there that didn't grow up with at least one of these movies. Disney for me have been an absolute staple of my childhood. I grew up particularly with that 90s era of movies, the Renaissance era that Disney had. And I just have an absolute blast with these films. It was a really, really fun journey over the years to grow and complete this collection. Not all of them did get Blu-ray releases over here. I do have some that are on DVD in custom Blu-ray cases and sleeves. And at the end of the video as well, I'll be running through what it looks like on the shelf to have a complete collection of these Disney films. There were some nitpicks I think that Disney changed along the way as well, because this collection does have numbered spines, and they changed that round about sort of when the Big Hero 6 got released. I cannot fathom why they did that, but yeah, frustrating for the collectors. But this is just a run through of the movies, my opinion of them, all 60 animated Disney classics. So that being said, let's get into the list. So coming up for the first Disney animated film that was released, we have at number 1, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I think this is an absolutely fantastic starting point for the Disney animated movies. I think this is a great film, great characters in it. I just really, really enjoy this one. The Wicked Queen is a fantastic villain, absolutely horrifying and terrifying as a kid watching this when she transforms into the hag. The Seven Dwarfs themselves are so memorable, so likable in this movie, very funny as well. The humour still holds up for me, in my opinion, with those characters. And it's just, like I said, a great starting point for Disney to tell these classic fairy tale fables in film form. And yeah, the animation is great. It's flawless, in my opinion. Really, really enjoy this film. One I grew up with. So yeah, that's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So the second film to be released from Disney, we have Pinocchio.
Please, you gotta help me. Be a pal. Call that beetle. Call anybody. Mama!
So yeah, as the second film animated by Disney, I think this is a much, much darker movie than its predecessor. It has, of course, the When You Wish Upon a Star theme tune, which is the Disney film. It's played at the start of nearly every film they've put out since, particularly with their releases and on the Disney Plus platform. But yeah, like I said, a much darker movie. really sort of plays on innocence and naivety in this film. Really horrific moments, particularly that stuff on Pleasure Island in the movie. Just absolutely horrific imagery. And yeah, again, I think it's a worthy follow-up. Great second entry into the Disney catalogue. And again, it's a fantastic movie, one I grew up with. So yeah, that's Pinocchio. So the third movie now, we have Fantasia. So yeah, Fantasia for me, again, wasn't one that I really liked so much as a kid. Wasn't one of these ones I was really itching to put back on the TV and rewatch all that much, simply because it's a very different movie. It is more so of musical shorts stitched together, and they really do work. They are visually very pleasing. Again, the animation is absolutely fantastic. My favourite segment probably being The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I know a lot of people really enjoy that one. But yeah, it's just a 2-hour sort of musical with amazing visuals in it. And Disney really sort of wanted to expand on that, as you'll see with the coming up movies. They really wanted to create more movies like this, because I think it was just critically acclaimed at the time. But the rewatch factor wasn't there for me. It's still a great and an amazing film as well. But yeah, not one that I rewatched a hell of a lot. So yeah, that's Fantasia. So the fourth movie that Disney put out after Fantasia was Dumbo.
Let's show 'em, Dumbo! Paladine!
So Dumbo again was one that I grew up with. I remember watching this over and over again at my grandparents' house on a sort of recorded video cassette, and yeah, I just enjoyed it that much. It felt like a really long film when I was younger, but the movie only clocks in, I think, a little over an hour. It's fantastic. You don't feel the runtime at all. As an adult, I kind of do wish it was longer. The humour in it's great. I know it does have its issues nowadays, particularly the scenes with the crows at the end of the movie. I know that doesn't really hold up now, but it still absolutely makes for a good film for me. I just really enjoy this one. I've got so much nostalgia for it. Bonus points as well if anyone can name the mouse in this movie. There is one segment of the film where you do see his name. If anyone can name that down below in the comments. But yeah, it's just an enjoyable, fun film. I always sort of realised as an adult as well that his name actually isn't Dumbo. It's just something that these other nasty elephants sort of nickname him in the movie, because his name is Jumbo Jr. But yeah, it's just a fun film. Really enjoy it. Really have a great time with this one. Stellar animation again. So yeah, that's Dumbo. So the fifth film to be released, we have Bambi.
We made it! We made it, Mother! Mother!
So this may come as quite a surprise to a lot of people who know me, but Bambi was not a Disney film or a film in general that I grew up with at all. You know, I wasn't until I was in my mid-20s, I think, until I actually saw this for the first time in full. I knew about it. I knew about that scene with Bambi's mother in the movie. That you even not having seen this film, you couldn't really escape the cultural impact that had at all. Absolutely horrific stuff. Even watching it as an adult, it's just absolutely heartbreaking to the movie. But the music in this movie is just absolutely phenomenal. The detail of nature in this film is just commendable. It is just absolutely stunning to look at. A great story, great coming of age, man as the villain in this film. Yeah, I just think it's fantastic, and it captures so much in such a short runtime as well. So yeah, I really enjoy this one. So that's Bambi. So taking a bit of a turn now, in my opinion. So the sixth movie to be released from Disney in their animated catalogue is Saludos Amigos.
Esse Brasil lindo e trigueiro é o meu Brasil brasileiro.
So Saludos Amigos was not a movie that I'd at all heard of. I pretty much guarantee most people who follow Disney, grew up with Disney, didn't really know or have heard of this movie. It was very much, again, one of these movies that Disney was trying to sort of capture the magic that Fantasia had. The next couple of movies as well were trying to do this as well on this list, but it's not one I grew up with at all. I knew little to nothing about it. One of the last animated Disney movies that I watched for the first time. It's a bit of a strange film. It's got some great visuals in it. Really, really interesting stuff. It blends, again, some live action segments in this movie. It's really, really short as well. I think it's only like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, if that. It's just a throwaway film, in my opinion. It doesn't stand out as much from the stories we were going to get in the future. But it's a fun film, to say the least about it. There are some things to be enjoyed with it. That's all I can really say about it. So that's Saludos Amigos. So coming up next for the 7th film to be released, that came out, it is the Three Caballeros. So again, a short runtime for this one, similar to Saludos Amigos. This one really sort of focuses more on Donald Duck. At the time, very, very popular character in Disney's roster. And again, it's just one of these little sort of musicals. Like I said, not a really long runtime to this one. Trying to recapture the magic of Fantasia. Disney was doing that. It's going to be rinse and repeat, I think. But yeah, Donald Duck is very, very much the star of the show in this movie. It's his vehicle. It's his sort of a movie to sort of showcase his IP for Disney. But yeah, it's just, again, another one of these throwaway movies. Not much to it. Some good music in it. Really good animation as well. Fast paced. Yeah, that's all I can really say about it. So that's the Three Caballeros. So the 8th movie to be released from Disney. Coming up next, we have Make Mine Music.
Mama's little baby loves shortening bread.
So Make Mine Music, again, another one of these movies with musical segments to it. Similar to Fantasia. Big surprise. And for me, the standout one was definitely The Singing Whale. I think that is an absolutely fantastic tale. It showcased as well the talent of the singer. I forget the actor's name, but he sang all of the parts in that story. They were just amazing. It just sounds like different singers altogether. Just what a talent. And the end of it is just absolutely heartbreaking. Just what a shame. Really, really enjoy that segment in this movie. The Singing Whale, it is just phenomenal. Great animation, great music. Really, really awesome stuff. And that's just all I can really commend about this film. Some good stories in there, but that one about the whale stole the show for me. So yeah, that is Make Mine Music. So coming up next for the 9th film to be released, we have Fun and Fancy Free.
Hello, little Belle, dear.
So this is quite an enjoyable one, I think, from the Disney roster that doesn't get much sort of attention brought to it. So it's kind of, again, 2 stories stitched together in this one. The first part being about a sort of a group of bears. And one of them sort of, he's in love with this female bear and he's trying to show affections for her, but she keeps hitting him, like really, really slapping him throughout the sort of the segment, and he's trying to work out why, what's up with that. And it turns out that's how bears are supposed to show affection for each other. It's a good story. I enjoy it, and yeah, it's fun. And the other one, of this is sort of a retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk, introducing obviously Willie the Giant, famous Disney character. Yeah, it's a good little two stories in this film. I enjoy it. Good animation, lots of charm to it. So yeah, that's fun and fancy free. So coming up next for the 10th movie to be released, we have Melody Time.
The Lord is good to me, and so I thank the Lord for giving me the things I need, the sun and rain and an apple seed. Yes, he's been good to me.
So this again has some good stories to it, some good music aspects to it. It's kind of Disney's last outing of recreating these little Fantasia movies that it was trying to do, recapture again. Because I'm kind of glad it was the last one, because from this point on we kind of sort of went back into these one story type of movies that we all knew and love and grew up with to the best part. And yeah, it's a good ending to it. I enjoy this one. It's got some, like I said, some good musical pieces to it. Animation again, top notch. Enjoy this one for what it is. So yeah, nothing else can really be said about it from me. So that's Melody Time. So for the 11th film that we have that came out from Disney, we have The Adventures of Icabad and Mr. Toad.
Off it!
Now, I didn't really know much about this, as its existence for me was just kind of went over my head, because I grew up watching the Mr. Toad half of this film. It was Disney's take on Wind in the Willows. I had no idea that I was only watching half of a movie. I grew up watching that absolutely solid. No idea that the Sleepy Hollow aspect to the film existed whatsoever. And to be honest, it's really good, really, really great. When the Headless Horseman shows up in this film, the scream and his cry is just absolutely iconic and memorable in this movie. And again, the Mr. Toad stuff, Wind in the Willows, is just absolutely great as well. Really, really enjoy it. Makes for a solid film. So yeah, that's The Adventures of Icabad and Mr. Toad. So next up, for the 12th movie to be released from Disney, it is, of course, Cinderella.
For the Duke to see me.
Mother, did you see what she did? Why,
Are you just going to let her walk out here? So this is love. La-dee-da.
A classic tale that we all know. Yeah, just absolutely fantastic story of this girl who loses her father and she ends up having to live with her stepmother and the two ugly sisters. Absolutely horrible, despicable people. Lady Tremaine, for me, may be the most underrated Disney villain. I think she is amazing as a character. Someone who is so manipulative and has control over one person is just absolutely horrifying. The way they sort of pull the strings for their life is just absolutely horrific, in my opinion. And yeah, it's probably the best part about Cinderella for me. Really, really good story. Again, like I said, we all know and love this one, so yeah, that's Cinderella. So coming up for the 13th film to be released, it is, of course, Alice in Wonderland.
Of course you're late. My goodness. We'll have to look into this. Aha! I see what's wrong with it. Why, this watch is full of wheels.
So I do remember liking this one as a kid. I do remember watching it. It wasn't one that I rewatched a hell of a lot. The odd couple of times. There were certainly more Disney movies I enjoyed more than this one, but very, very colourful, very, very creative characters. But for me, I think the movie was just too out there. It does feel absolutely absurd and bonkers when you look at this film and its characters. It's just too spaced out for me. It's just, whoa, what is going on? It's just crazy what's going on. But that's the point of the movie. That is very much, you know, what the movie is about. It's this daydream, psychedelic type of film, which I think I appreciate a little bit more as an adult. I really, really admire this movie for its creativity. Really good animation again. Everything you'd expect to see from Disney. Just a really, really solid film now. So that's Alice in Wonderland. So for the 14th film to be released, we have Peter Pan.
Roll for the ship! Roll for the ship!
Peter Pan, absolutely fantastic film, in my opinion. Really, really enjoy this one. Similar to Alice in Wonderland, I really admire it for its creativity in this. Great characters, great setting. There's just so much going on in this film. Great story as well. Peter Pan and the Lost Boys not wanting to grow up, sort of stay kids forever. Great villain with Captain Hook. And this movie, for me, by the way, may have some of the best comedy in a Disney film. I just really, really enjoy the aspect between Captain Hook and the crocodile in this film. It is just absolutely hilarious slapstick. It's so well paced. I know slapstick isn't for everyone, but for me it really works in this film particularly. Yeah, it's just so funny. Really, really enjoy that stuff about it. Creative film. Really, really enjoy this one. So that's Peter Pan. So for the next film, the 15th release, we have Lady and the Tramp.
With your loved one, you'll find an enchantment here.
So again, this isn't one that I really sort of grew up with. I watched it here and there throughout my childhood, not a staple for me. But as an adult, I really sort of appreciate this movie a hell of a lot more. I think it takes a step back from more so the spectacular visuals that were in Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan, and this focuses more on character. And I think apart from the two leads being dogs, it probably could have worked if it had the human characters. It probably would have felt something a bit more organic to real life. But yeah, it's just really, really good. Like I said, a movie that I appreciate a hell of a lot more as an adult. Great romance story from two different social backgrounds, and I just enjoy it all the more for it. So that's Lady and the Tramp. So next up, for the 16th movie to be released from Disney, it is, of course, Sleeping Beauty.
Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, she shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die.
So again, another great Disney staple to come out. Follow a great villain as well, Maleficent, who was snubbed at this almost medieval baby shower, I want to say. And yeah, it was really good. Some really good creepy imagery in this movie as well. Particularly the stuff where Aurora's about to prick her finger on the spinning wheel. The build up to that is just really creeped me out as a kid. The colours in it, the imagery in it, really, really good. I love the angular drawings to this movie as well. It's a stunning film, it really is, with a great, great villain, one of the best in Disney's roster for me. We all know and love this film, so yeah, that's Sleeping Beauty. So coming up next for the 17th Disney film to be released, it is 101 Dalmatians.
Go get him, Thunder. After him, boy. He'll get that dirty old horse thief.
Again, not a movie that I grew up watching all that much. I only saw this a handful of times. It was one that was sort of played at school, and that was really the only time that I really watched it. Didn't really grow up with this one at all. Funnily enough, I grew up with the Glenn Close live action one from the mid-90s. That was my 101 Dalmatians growing up. And yeah, although in hindsight, doesn't really hold a candle to this one. I think this is the much better film, but again, if you don't really like Dalmatians or dogs in this film all that much, it can be a bit overload. Great villain with Cruella de Vil, who just wants to make this fair coat from these Dalmatian puppies and will stop at nothing. That's what's probably the best part of the film for me. But great characters in it. It's a fun movie, throwaway film to put on. Enjoy this one for what it is. So that's 101 Dalmatians. So next up, for the 18th movie to be released from Disney's animated catalogue, we have The Sword in the stone.
Education, mathematics, history, biology, natural science, English, Latin, French. No, when? Blast it all, when?
So this for me was definitely a childhood staple. I absolutely loved and adored this film. There has never been a time where I've disliked this movie. I absolutely love it. The humour in this film works for me so well. The sugar bowl in this movie might be one of Disney's funniest characters that doesn't speak. It's a sugar bowl, yet it is chock-a-block full of character in this movie. I just love it so much. The wizard's duel at the end is absolutely amazing. It is a ton of fun. The constant changing between animals to outdo each other is just absolutely great. Great lessons learned in the film as well. I love all the medieval aspect to it. It may even as well have one of the most heartbreaking moments I've ever seen in a film. It absolutely cuts me to shreds whenever I watch that scene in the movie with the squirrels. If you've seen it, you know. As an adult, it is just devastating. It really is, but I just love this movie. I think it's great. It's one of my favourite Disney films. I have such a blast with this movie. It does have its flaws here and there, but my God, I can look past them and just get so much out of this film. So yeah, that's The Sword and the Stone. So coming up next for the 19th release is another great movie. It is, of course, The Jungle Book.
You're Shere Khan.
Precisely. Then you should also know that everyone runs from Shere Khan.
Again, The Jungle Book, an absolutely fantastic movie. This is definitely one that I grew up with as well. Still have my VHS copy of it. Used to play it all the time. I love the story of this Mowgli, who is obviously this man cub raised in the jungle, and he just forms this friendship with these great characters. You have Bagheera the panther, who just kind of sort of looks after him from afar. Baloo the bear. King Louie is a really fun character in the film. Kaa as well, the snake, and Shere Khan, again, one of the best villains in a Disney film, having very, very little screen time as well. Only really sort of shows up towards the end, but my word, you just really, really feel the power and the menace that this character has in the movie. I absolutely love it. It's, again, sounding like a broken record, it's a fun film, but it's just on the move all the time. You, from one scene to the next with all of these different characters. The general elephant in the movie, that stuff's a ton of fun. King Louie, like I said earlier, that stuff. The vultures at the end. And then all coming together with Shere Khan. It just flows so well for me, this film. Really, really enjoy it. So that is The Jungle Book. So the 20th film to be released from Disney up next is, of course, The Aristocrats.
Quiet!
Now this, of course, again, is one of these Disney movies I grew up with. It felt like the VHS tape for this was never out of the VCR growing up. I used to watch this all the time. But as an adult, I must say, this suffers from not being as good as I remember it. It is a little bit bland, I must admit. It doesn't have that creative vibe for me anymore. But I still enjoy the film. I still get a lot out of it. I enjoy the villain in this film, Edgar, although his motivations are a bit questionable. He gets left out of this rich woman's will, as everything's going to be left to her cats. And he just wants to get rid of the cats so he can claim everything. That's it. There's not much to it. The alley cats in this movie, the band, they're fun characters. Really, really enjoy it for what it is, despite, its flaws that I think are quite noticeable nowadays. But yeah, it's just a staple from my childhood, and I'm maybe looking at it through nostalgic glasses, but it is what it is. So that's The Aristocrats. So the 21st film to be released next we have, of course, is Robin Hood.
Silly if I make the rules, and since I am the head man... Not so hard, you mean thing.
Now, this might be my second favourite Disney animated film of all time. I have so much nostalgia for this movie. It is on a very, very high pedestal for that for me. It is one of these movies that my parents taped before I was born, and I grew up watching it. I just absolutely love and adore this film. Great characters. One of my favourite villains as well, Prince John, voiced by Peter Ustinov, is just hilarious in this film. And his little sidekick, Hiss, they bicker and bitch at each other like a married couple in this film. I absolutely love it. The humour works so well. I think the friendship between Robin Hood and Little John as well is just absolutely great. The supporting characters in it, Maid Marian, Friar Tuck, love them all. Really, really enjoy this one. It is really, really solid. Great music. Just a great story. It just oozes nostalgia for me, this film. And it still holds up. It's still really good. Really, really enjoy it. Absolute childhood staple. So that is Robin Hood. So next up, the 22nd film to be released is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Thank you.
Now, I've never really been the biggest Winnie the Pooh fan. It was definitely in the background of my childhood, this one. I think it's got a great cast of characters to it, but it was never really one that I gave my full attention to, never really sort of gave that much focus to. But it was there. It was just kind of there in the background, like I said. Never really grew up with this movie at all. Again, one of the later ones that I watched for the first time. It was another Winnie the Pooh film that came out. I think it was the next one after this that I kind of grew up with more. But yeah, it's a fun tale. It kind of introduces Tigger to these characters as well, who's just this hyperactive character. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The main selling point is, of course, the characters in it. Really, really good stuff. And yeah, it's that's just The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I can't say much more about it. So yeah, that's that. So coming up next, for the 23rd film to be released, it is The Rescuers.
Oh, I just love takeoffs.
So this again was kind of there for me in my childhood. I used to watch this one a couple of times, not as much as others growing up, but I kind of find this one to be one of Disney's weaker movies, if I'm honest. That's just my opinion. It doesn't really hold up for me. It doesn't have much going for it. Dare I say it, it's slightly boring, which pains me to say it, being a Disney film and how much, you know, I grew up with these films. But yeah, it just follows this. It's a very cutesy movie. It follows this girl who's kind of being held captive. The villains in this film need someone small to sort of retrieve this diamond, and that's kind of just why they're using her. And the mice have been brought in to, as the title suggests, rescue this child. That's what they do. The sequel for me was far better. Visually, I think it was just a much more interesting movie. But this one, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's not Disney's finest hour as well. I think that might be a fair assessment. So yeah, that's The Rescuers. So coming up next for the 24th film to be released, we have The Fox and the Hound. So this is another movie that I was very, very late to the game with. I remember when I was collecting these Disney films, and I watched this one at sort of a similar time as watching Bambi for the first time, and I thought this movie was great. It follows these two sort of young animals, obviously the fox and the hound, as the title would suggest, and it follows their friendship and how, you know, they just can't really be inseparable in this film. And they have to grow up and realise what they're sort of destined to be in this film, and that is enemies. And I just think Disney handle that story, that aspect, absolutely magnificently in this film. It is great. The supporting characters are great. It has an ending to it that is bittersweet, but there is a mutual respect there. and I really, really admire that about this film. It isn't your typical happy ending. It really, really isn't, because not all the time things are going to end happily, and this film really, really touches on that. Really enjoy it. Really solid, mature film. Yeah, that's The Fox and the Hound. So coming up next for Disney's 25th movie to be released, we have The Black Cauldron.
Oh, yes. Yes, my soldiers. Soon the Black Cauldron will be mine.
So this is considered, I think, to be many Disney's first sort of real failure as a film. It wasn't a financial hit by any means. I think when you look back at the numbers over this movie, it was a very, very dark time for Disney. I think the 80s as a company, I think they were really, really struggling just to generally perform and churn out quality films. But I've got to say, Black Cauldron, I enjoy this film. I think it's pretty good. It's definitely got its flaws in that, but the main antagonist of the film isn't all that likable. Come across as quite annoying, but yeah, I just enjoy the film. Really enjoy that medieval aspect to it. Fun characters, great visuals, and yeah, I just think it's a good little solid film. Shame it didn't perform as well as it did back in the day, but I think it's found a bit of a cult following now, and yeah, I just think it's a fine movie. So yeah, that's The Black Cauldron. So coming up next for the 26th film to be released, we have Basil, the Great Mouse Detective.
I just love your disguise. Really, one would hardly recognize you.
So this is a fun little detective movie. I really like it. A lot of charm, a lot of heart to it. Yeah, it's just a very, very sort of fun take on the Sherlock Holmes tale. But who steals the show for me in this film is Vincent Price as Ratigan. You can just picture him in the sound booth recording his lines, having an absolute blast with this role that he's given. He just oozes charisma in this role. It's absolutely fantastic. Great villain as well, who just is this rat, but he wants to pass himself off as a mouse. And at the end, with the final confrontation, the rat side of him really, really comes out. Really, really good stuff. If you like your Sherlock Holmes types of stuff, this is definitely one to check out. It's just a fun movie. So, yeah, that's Basil, the Great Mouse Detective. So coming up next for the 27th film to be released is Oliver and Company.
People like you get hurt. Do I make myself clear?
So this was one for me that I did grow up with. Again, watched this one a hell of a lot growing up, but not a lot of people, kids as well, that I grew up with around the time seem to really talk about this one all that much. I thought I was the only one who really sort of grew up with it. It's fun. Billy Joel's great as Dodger in the movie. Some great songs in there as well. That Why Should I Worry song is catchy as hell. I just enjoy it. Although I think the movie is it wears thin on plot, I will say. But yeah, it's a fun film. It's about this stray cat who ends up sort of befriending all these dogs, and this girl finds him and wants to sort of look after him. Yeah, there isn't much to it. It does have one of the best villain deaths in a Disney film ever, though. Absolutely fantastic with Sykes in the movie. But yeah, it's just a fun little movie. It isn't anything special. This is obviously before Disney's big, massive comeback with the string of hits that they were going to have in the 90s. But yeah, it's just a fine movie. That's all I can really say about it. So that is Oliver and Company. So coming up next for the 28th movie to be released, we have The Little Mermaid.
What I want from you is
Your voice.
My voice?
You've got it, sweet cakes.
So again, I was very, very late to the party with this one. Knew of it, knew there was an animated show that used to get played on Sunday mornings here in the UK, along with the animated Aladdin. But other than that, didn't really know much about it. I just think this is it's a good, solid film, to be honest with you. It's got some good stakes to it. Great villain with Ursula. But Ariel in the movie, she's not very sort of, I'd say, smart character in the film. I know she's a teenager and there's naivety there, but yeah, it's okay for me for what it is. It's fine. It's got some good songs to it. All the underwater stuff I think is absolutely great. When we get on land, that's when the movie kind of sort of slows down for me. But yeah, I still enjoy it nonetheless. It is a pretty solid film. So yeah, that's The Little Mermaid. So coming up next for the 29th movie to be released, we have The Rescuers Down Under. The Rescuers Down Under, a much upgrade for me, much better than the original film. Really enjoy this one. Very underrated film. It sees the two characters, the two mice that we sort of follow from the first movie, go to Australia, sort of help this boy out, and this sort of capture that's going on for this great rare eagle in the movie. The swooping scenes in the film are just absolutely commendable. The animation is stellar. Really good. Really good setting. Scenery in this film, top notch. Great villain as well, voiced by George C. Scott. It's a very solid, enjoyable film that is finding its feet, I think, nowadays, but for a long time, this movie just didn't get the recognition it deserved, and I just think it's a cracking little film. So that's The Rescuers Down Under. So coming up next for the 30th movie to be released, we have Beauty and the Beast.
He's my friend.
If I didn't know better, I'd think you had feelings for this monster.
He's no monster, Gaston. You are.
So I have Beauty and the Beast. This again was another movie I was very late to the party to. Sort of saw it at the same time as Bambi and Fox and the Hound. And this was definitely the best of that bunch for me. That I was new to. Didn't really grow up with this one, but this story it's a fantastic story. It's a great movie. It's borderline perfect with its storytelling, its pacing. Really solid film. There's not a whole lot wrong with it. From a technical aspect, it just flows magnificently. Two great leads. Gaston, fantastic, up his own arse villain in this film. Great cast of supporting characters, Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts. It's just an enjoyable film. It's so well executed, great with its story. Yeah, just a phenomenal film. And this was kind of the start of Disney's comeback. So yeah, that's Beauty and the Beast. So coming up next for the 31st film to be released, we have Aladdin.
Are you afraid to fight me yourself, you cowardly snake?
A snake, am I? Perhaps you'd like to see how snake-like I can be.
This was definitely a staple of my childhood. I absolutely loved and adore this film, and still do. I just think it's fantastic. Great setting. Agrabah looks amazing in this film. The way they've shot this city looks absolutely phenomenal. Robin Williams as the genie. It may just be the best voice casting ever put to film, in my opinion. It is just absolutely synonymous, and it works so well. Absolutely iconic. Yeah, just great to see the Robin Williams talent be let loose in this film. It's absolutely amazing. Him as the genie in it. Jafar's a great villain. Aladdin himself, great character, great rags to riches tale. It does have the liar reveal in there, but yeah, I'm absolutely okay with it. I enjoy this one so much. I just think it's a great tale, and this one really sort of kickstarted my love for Disney. So yeah, that's Aladdin. So coming up next for the 32nd film to be released, we have the absolutely iconic The Lion King.
Simba, you have forgotten me.
No. How could I?
You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me.
So yeah, I think this might take the crown as my favourite all-time Disney movie. I just adore this. It was the second film I think I ever saw at the cinema, and yeah, I absolutely love it. I may be biased towards this movie. A lot of people think it's very overrated. They don't really like the music in it. Some of the songs are a bit annoying. That's absolutely fine, but I adore this film. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I just think it's great. It is a staple of my childhood. I have so many fond memories of this film. I just adore it. I can't say any more about it than that. We all know it. We've all seen it. We all know what this movie's about. Real sort of reality check in this film with the big spoiler, the death of one of this movie's major characters. It was, yeah, it's just a great film. I just absolutely love and adore this tale. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, that's The Lion King. So coming up next for the 33rd film to be released, we have Pocahontas.
And I say, anyone who so much as looks at an Indian without killing him on sight will be tried for treason and hanged.
So this is another one of these movies that I did go and see this at the cinema, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't own this movie on VHS. I didn't watch it a hell of a lot growing up at all, if any. I think I saw it once at the cinema, and then I saw it again years later when I started collecting these ones, and it still was the same movie. I remembered it. It is that tale of man's greed that we've seen in movies done so many other times. But for a Disney movie, I enjoy it. I think it's a solid follow-up release from The Lion King. It's great music in it, great scenery in it, great romance tale. Yeah, I enjoy this one. I think it's a really solid film. But I think I just missed out on that childhood experience of it because I only saw it that one time. But yeah, I just think it's a good, solid film. So that's Pocahontas. So coming up next for the 34th film to be released, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, I'm free! I'm free! Oh. Yeah.
Yet another Disney movie that I grew up with, that was a staple of my childhood. Felt like this was never out the VCR either. But yeah, I just love and adore this film. It's only really sort of as an adult over the last few years when I've rewatched this film that I really sort of see the dark messages and undertones in this movie, especially for a Disney film. I just think, how did they get away with this back in the mid-90s? Exceptional villain, Judge Frollo, voiced by the iconic Tony Jay, is just, yeah, one of the best villains. He has this hatred for gypsies, yet he absolutely lusts after one of them. If he can't have her, no one can. That's the type of villain that you just wouldn't see in a Disney film nowadays. It's just, yeah, real sort of groundbreaking stuff for them, definitely. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic tale, great music. I think Paris in the movie looks absolutely great with Arc de Triomphe. Really awesome stuff. Yeah, just a great film. So that is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So coming up next for the 35th film to be released, we have Hercules.
Guys, Olympus would be that way.
So yeah, this is definitely Greek mythology sewn through the fabric of Disney, and I have fun with this film. It plays up the humour, really good stuff in it. Danny DeVito as Philatites is great. Really enjoy him in this film. I just love the creative, colourful cast of characters in the movie. Really enjoyed the story in this as well. Hercules, he's kidnapped from Olympus and is forced to live a mortal life, and he has to prove himself a hero in order to gain his god status back. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic film. Really enjoy it. It's so funny. The humour really works for me. characters are absolutely fantastic. James Woods as Hades, great villain. Really, really enjoy this one. So, yeah, that's Hercules. So coming up next for the 36th film to be released, we have Mulan. Yeah, I think Mulan is a fantastic film. This war that's going on, and there's this family who the one male has to go and represent their country in this war. And Mulan, being the only girl, has to take up the mantle and pass off as a male because her father's quite old and frail and can't really take part in the war. So she goes in his place without them knowing. And yeah, it's just a great tale. Really enjoy it. The imagery in this film, the animation is just absolutely stellar and top notch. A gorgeous film, a great story, and it kind of just went under the radar for me. It wasn't one I grew up with. This is the first Disney movie I remember renting from Blockbusters, and I just had a ball with it. I had an absolutely great time. A fantastic film, still holds up. Great characters. Yeah, I just really enjoy the story to this one. So that is Mulan. So coming up next for the 37th film to be released, we have Tarzan.
Oh, Master, you're such a tease. Hello. Archimedes Q. Potter at your service.
So yeah, Disney's take on Tarzan. Yeah, I remember seeing this at the cinema. It was sort of coming towards the end of my childhood, this one. But yeah, it's a good movie. I enjoy it. I love the way they incorporate how Tarzan gets around in this film. That you borderline like he's surfing the trees. Really, really creative stuff. Really great imagery in it. Yeah, just the Tarzan story again put through the Disney machine, and they've churned out a great film. Great soundtrack as well by Phil Collins. Yeah, just a really, really fun, enjoyable movie. This one, really enjoy it. Great villain as well, Clayton, voiced by Brian Blessed. One of the best Disney villain deaths also in this one. Absolutely horrific imagery when you see it. From a child, I didn't really notice that when I was a kid in the film. It wasn't until later, but yeah, good solid entry. Really enjoy it. So that's Tarzan. So coming up next for the 38th release from Disney, we have Fantasia 2000. The overdue sequel to Fantasia. Again, it feels very fitting. It's a much shorter movie than the original one, but yeah, this has some great visuals in it, great musical numbers, great animation. You also get a visit to the Sorcerer's Apprentice in this one, but the movie is also chock-a-block full of really out of nowhere cameos in this movie of celebrities introducing the musical segments to it. Really, really bizarre stuff. I really liked the Noah's Ark one with Donald Duck in this film. That was really enjoyable. Penn and Teller introducing the Sorcerer's Apprentice again. Yeah, Rhapsody in Blue, I think it's fantastic. I enjoy this one. I have fun with it for what it is, but not as good as the original Fantasia, but a decent little follow-up. So that's Fantasia 2000. So next, for the 39th release, we have The Emperor's New Groove.
No! You threw off my groove!
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
The Emperor's New Groove, a really, really good, humorous Disney film that doesn't really get the love and attention. I think this is a cracking film. I think David Spade and John Goodman's characters in the movie have great chemistry. The humour really works, and that isn't more evident in the villains in this film. Yzma and Kronk, some of the best Disney villains ever. absolutely hysterical. These two characters are just so funny. The pacing of it is amazing. The humour rivals all that slapstick from Peter Pan for me. It is just absolutely mesmerising to watch. So funny. Side-splitting with laughter. Yeah, just a really, really delightful film. But again, it doesn't really get talked about all the love it deserves, because it really does. It's one of Disney's last great ones, in my opinion. I just think it's just such a fun film. Really, really adore this one. So, yeah, that's The Emperor's New Groove. So coming up next for the 40th release, we have Atlantis, The Lost Empire.
Alright, this is it! We're gonna rescue the princess! We're gonna save Atlantis! Or we're gonna die trying! Now let's do it!
Yeah, so this one, a great cast to it, led by Michael J. Fox in this one. Sort of Disney's journey, trying to discover Atlantis in this film. I think the visuals are absolutely amazing. Again, Disney know how to create a really, really fun cast of supporting characters in this movie. The one who always was memorable was the mole in this film for me. Really, really stuck out. But yeah, some good villains in there as well, although a bit cliched with the motivation in this movie. Kind of similar to Pocahontas, but yeah, it's good. Really enjoy it. The visuals are the standout as well. The soundtrack's great. And yeah, one of Michael J. Fox's lesser known roles for me. Really enjoy it. So that's Atlantis, The Lost Empire. So coming up next for the 41st release, we have Lilo and Stitch.
Be careful of the little angel.
It's not an angel, Lilo. I don't even think it's a dog. We just have to take him back.
He's just cranky because it's his bedtime.
So yeah, Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this film, but I do think it is solid. I do think it's enjoyable. Sort of follows these two sisters. The elder one's obviously sort of looking after the younger one. She's trying to sort of raise her. And they end up sort of finding this this little creature called Stitch, who is like this really sort of wanted outlaw. And they end up sort of forming this bond, the younger daughter looking after her. And everything that you'd expect, there's like some sort of galactic empire that's sort of like after him, wanting to claim him back. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. The eldest daughter has so much to contend with in this film. Just the realities of adulthood really sort of grab her in this one. And yeah, it just leads to a great dynamic, great relationships. Really enjoy it for that. But it's not one of my most rewatchable Disney films. So yeah, that's Lilo and Stitch. So coming up next for the 42nd release, we have Treasure Planet.
Cabin boys should learn to mind their own business.
So yeah, Disney's take on the Treasure Island story, but obviously with a bit more of a futuristic element to it. Hence the title, obviously, Planet instead of Island. Yeah, enjoy this one. I grew up watching the Muppets Treasure Island with Tim Curry. That was an absolute staple for me. But this one, it does something different with it. It's got a great cast of characters to it. Creepy, imaginative, creative designs to the crew in this film. Yeah, it's really good, really, really out there. It just has fun with this new concept. And I just enjoy it. It's trying to bring something new to the table with the story. And I've got to commend it for that. It is good. The animation's great. Yeah, some great voice casts in there as well. The likes of Martin Short, Michael Wincott. It's some really fun characters in it. And a fun visual treat for the eyes. So, yeah, that's Treasure Planet. So coming up next for the 43rd release, we have Brother Bear.
What do you mean?
My brother's a spirit. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here.
You have a brother up there?
So this again is another great tale from Disney. It sort of follows this young impulsive boy who's kind of transformed into this bear, and he has to sort of live life on the other side of what's going on in this film without going into too much depth with it. And he forms this friendship with this bear cub in the film, but with what his family and his background have to do to survive, you kind of can see where things are going in this film, and I thought it was a good tale, good reveal in the film. Another movie with great supporting characters. The bears in it are quite funny. Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis as these two sort of these moose in the movie are really enjoyable and funny. But yeah, it's a good solid film. I think Phil Collins did the soundtrack to this one as well. I enjoy it. It's not one I go back to a hell of a lot. Joaquin Phoenix as the lead as well, but yeah, it's enjoyable for what it is. So that's Brother Bear. So coming up next for the 44th release, we have Home on the Range.
You want the money, and I want to get even with Slim. The three of us go together and we're sure to get him. And once you collect the reward, I'll walk out your front gate and I'll stay out of it forever. Deal?
So this was the start of a bit of a bad run for Disney in terms of quality. This is not the finest hour. It definitely isn't. Really, really sort of struggled here. Again, a bit like the 80s, in my opinion, but these next couple, 3 or 4 films for me, may be some of Disney's worst. Yeah, Home on the Range, the positives I can draw from it, the animation's really good, the voice acting's pretty solid, but that's about it. The story just isn't there. It's a bit of a struggle to get through these next couple of movies, but that's all I can really say positive about it. That's Home on the Range. So coming up next for the 45th release, we have Chicken Little.
Come on. All I need is a chance.
So yeah, again, this not Disney's finest hour by any means. It's on that bad run that they're having, in my opinion at least. People may like this movie, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, it's not great. The hand-drawn animation, they were trying to sort of phase out with this one and go more down the CGI route, and it doesn't really hold up, the animation, in my opinion. The story in it sort of follows, obviously, Chicken Little, who his father doesn't really believe him. A lot of people don't believe him, that he's sort of seen this alien in this film. The father is just not a good character in this movie from a moral standpoint. He's just really mean to his son, and yeah, it's not very likable when it comes to that. I think Disney were just totally, mistreading with this one, unfortunately, and that's all I can really say about it. So that's Chicken Little. So coming up next for the 46th release, we have The Wild.
I don't know what to do anymore, Benny. I've tried everything.
Everything? You tried everything.
What are you saying?
I'm saying you have to tell them the truth.
So this one, again, not Disney's finest hour. It just follows this group of zoo animals that sort of escape from the zoo and they end up going to New York. There's a bit of a backstory with the main character in this one. The lion, he's got like a bit of a fear with fire and stuff like that. Great voice cast, but that's kind of where the positives end. Kiefer Sutherland's great in it, Ezzy Izzard. Yeah, it's got a good cast to it, but there's just a lot left to be desired with this movie. You can just tell Disney weren't really sort of giving it their all with this one, which is a shame because I think it could have been really good. But yeah, again, that's all I can really say about it. So that's The Wild. So coming up next for their 47th release, we have Meet the Robinsons.
What are you doing? Let go of me!
Okay.
So yeah, this is a much more improved movie, I think, that Disney put out. Still not fantastic, but very underrated. A lot of charm to this one. Really enjoy it. Follows this young lad. He's a bit of an inventor, and he forms this friendship with someone who claims to be from the future, and he ends up going to the future and spending time with this family, the Robinsons. Obviously, the movie can go down a bit of a predictable route. You can sort of see where things are going with it, but creative imagery, I don't think Disney had quite got the animation right with this one just yet. It's still a bit hokey in places, but it's still a solid film. Really good story. Really enjoy it. It's just a little bit of a good time, bit of an underrated one. So that's Meet the Robinsons. So coming up next for their 48th release, we have Bolt. Yeah, a bit of a fun, harmless premise to this one. It sort of follows this dog called Bolt, who is actually this like sort of super-powered dog. Always, just a superhero trying to just sort of save people. But what he doesn't realise is that he's actually part of a TV show where he just plays this dog with superpowers. But he doesn't realise that in the real world. He kind of sort of has to come to terms with the fact that he's just an average everyday dog in the movie, and that's pretty much it. It's a good little adventure. It's a good harmless film. The first one over here in the UK to get a PG rating. Everything prior to this was U, but yeah, it's just a fun film. John Travolta's great in the role. Malcolm McDowell as the villain. Yeah, good time. So that's Bolt. So coming up next for the 49th release, we have The Princess and the Frog.
Tell him what else you did, Big Daddy. Go on.
And he's staying. And he's staying in our house as my personal guest.
So it was great to see Disney returning to hand-drawn animation for this one. I think this was the last one that is in that style of animation from their studio. And it was just a real welcome return. I do have some flaws with the movie. There were some things it did that I didn't particularly like with some characters, but yeah, I just thought it was a good, solid, decent film. We had this great New Orleans setting, great music, a great villain as well, voiced by Keith David, this sort of voodoo witch doctor in the film. I just enjoyed it. It really showcased as well Jim Cummings' voice talent as well, who was in pretty much most of these movies. Really enjoy him whenever he turns up, and yeah, it's just a good different take on this kissing a frog and he'll turn into a handsome prince story that we all know. Injected something new into it and breathed some fresh air, and the movie's just a bit of a delight. So that is The Princess and the Frog. So coming up next for the 50th release, we have Tangled. So yeah, I don't think this movie's particularly bad by any means. I think this is quite an enjoyable film. A take on the Rapunzel tale. Yeah, it's just a fun time. It doesn't break new ground. I don't think it's as high on the pedestal as movies like Aladdin or The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast or anything like that. But this is a good, solid entry. It was onwards and upwards here, I think, for Disney in terms of the quality of their film for a time at least anyway. But yeah, it's a good, solid film. I enjoy it. I have fun with it for what it is. It's a good build-up as to what was to come. And yeah, it's just a fun film. So that is Tangled. So coming up next for the 51st release, we have Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm bad, and that's good. That will never be good, and that's not bad.
Yep, a great video game movie that I just think is fantastic. A different take on it, following the villain Ralph from this game, Fix-It Felix. And he just has decided, I've had enough. I don't want to be the villain anymore. I want to get a medal that all the heroes seem to get. I'm going to be, do whatever I have to do in order to get that. And I just think it's a great tale. He forms a great friendship in this movie as well with Vanellope in the movie. Really enjoy that stuff. Have a great time with it. Great creepy villain as well in this film that later gets revealed on towards the end of the film. And yeah, I just enjoyed it. I think it's fantastic. Real treat, this film. I had a great time watching it at the cinema. And yeah, I just thought it was a fantastic home run from Disney. Really enjoyed it. So that's Wreck-It Ralph. So for the 52nd release, we have the absolute monster juggernaut that was Frozen.
You and this fellow. Woohoo! Big summer blowout.
So once in a while, a movie comes out where you cannot escape its clutches. You can't walk through shops where there isn't merch for it. You can't go into a restaurant or bar where music isn't getting played from it. It's just everywhere, this film. TV ads. I could not escape this film where it was everywhere. And I didn't think after watching it at the cinema it was going to be that big. When I went to see this at the cinema, there was 4 people in the cinema, myself included. It was just dead. I did not expect this movie to be the absolute giant cultural impact that it was going to have. I just didn't see it coming. And I like the movie. I think it's fun. I think it's fine. Really enjoy it. There's not a lot of negative there for me. Maybe it just is that just this hype around it that afterwards it really, really lasted. And yeah, it's a good film. Enjoy it for what it is. So that is Frozen. So coming up next for the 53rd release, we have Big Hero 6.
My programming prevents me from injuring a human being.
Not anymore.
Hero, this is not what...
A good little futuristic take on the sort of the superhero genre. I really, really enjoyed it. Great little cast of creative characters in this movie. Baymax is just so likable in the film. He's just this really, really cute character that is just all he wants to do with his programming is just help people. And yeah, the sort of the main character in this film, you sort of follow him after this tragedy that's happened, and he sort of wants to get revenge. And there's a really good scene in this with where this unhinged moment happens, and I just enjoy it. Great setting as well in this sort of fictitious hybrid San Fran Tokyo-esque city. Really enjoyed it. Really creative. Yeah, good film this one. So that's Big Hero 6. So coming up next for the 54th release, we have Zootropolis.
Pregnant.
So I think this went by a couple of titles: Zootropolis, Zootopia. Depends wherever you are from in the world. But either way, the movie's good. I really like it. It sort of has these stereotypical animals as to what they do. They live up to the traits that they would normally have in this movie. And it kind of sort of deals with the breakdown of that as this rabbit wants to be a police officer, but she can't because she's a rabbit and things like that. It's just a really, really interesting take. And she does it anyway in this film. And yeah, I just really like it. Really, really enjoyable. Jason Bateman's great as the fox in this movie. Really like him. He's sort of this cunning sort of con man in the film. And yeah, colourful characters, enjoyable story, great execution, and some really, really funny moments in there too. So yeah, that's Zootropolis. So coming up next for the 55th release, we have Moana. Yeah, another really good home run from Disney, in my opinion. I really like this film. Great characters. Yeah, great heroes in the movie. Really, really enjoy it. It looks photogenic at times. It has this really sort of crystal clear look to it. And yeah, just follows Moana trying to sort of find a place with her people. And people are very much sort of oppressive. They don't really want her to venture out off this island, but something's calling her in this film, and we have to find out what it is. yeah, I just really enjoy it. Really, really good. Great music in there as well. Dwayne Johnson's fantastic in the movie as well. Yeah, it's a good, solid film. Really enjoy it. So that is Moana. So coming up next for the 56th release, we have Ralph Breaks the Internet.
That is unsubtle.
Now, as sequels go, for me, I'm sorry to say that for me, this was not as good as Wreck-It Ralph. Maybe you like this one just as much, or maybe even more than Wreck-It Ralph, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, it was just lacking something. It was a bit of a continuation, but with a bit of a strange direction. Sort of Ralph going into the internet, going on eBay and causing absolute havoc with this film to try and raise money for this part for the game that's going to be closed down. I thought it was fine, but when sequels come out to movies you really, really enjoy, you cannot help but compare them. And yeah, it's sadly it doesn't hold that quality that the original had for me. I still like the film, I still enjoy it, but if I had to choose between the two, Wreck-It Ralph would win all day long. But yeah, it's a fine follow-up. It is what it is. It's just one of these sequels that isn't as good as the original, but it's not bad either. So yeah, that's Ralph Breaks the Internet. So coming up next for the 57th release, we have Frozen 2.
How can it be?
What is it?
Mother and Father's ship.
This isn't the Southern Sea.
Kind of the same opinion and regard I hold for this one as Ralph Breaks the Internet. A good sequel that isn't bad, but isn't as good as the original by far. It's a very different tale. It sort of sees the characters venturing into the woods and finding out a bit more about themselves, only to discover that there's this threat to the kingdom in this movie. And yeah, it's a good little follow-up. It's nowhere near as good. I don't even think the music is as good, although it still is pretty good. It just doesn't have and is not able to capture that magic of the original film. But it just goes with sequels, unfortunately. You do get that rare occurrence where they are better than the original. But Frozen 2, I still think it's a good entry. It's a good, solid film, just not as good as the original. So yeah, that's Frozen 2. So coming up next for the 58th film, we have Raya and the Last Dragon.
Right here?
Oh, mighty Sisu.
Who said that? Hello? Hello?
So yeah, a good little story to this one. A nice little creative entry from Disney. It sort of follows this girl on this quest to find this what happened to these dragons who sacrificed themselves, and there's one left. And yeah, it's this bond that they form as they go on this journey to try and restore what happened with this thing that happened in their past, without going into too much detail there. But yeah, it's a really, really good, solid film. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was great. Great imagery in the movie as well. There's this fight sequence that happens as the father's like trying to sort of protect this entity in the movie. I just thought it was great. Really was awesome. Yeah, it's a solid film. Great settings to it as well. Really enjoyed it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, from what I remember, overall, a really, really solid film. So that is Raya and the Last Dragon. So coming up next for the 59th release, we have Encanto.
You're gonna get your gift and open that door, and it's gonna be the coolest ever. I know it.
Yeah, not one of my favourite Disney movies, I must admit. I know Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music to this one. I am by no means a fan of his. But yeah, it's a good, solid film. It sort of follows this family, and they all kind of have their own little sort of magical powers that they get when they come to a certain age. And it follows the lead character, who she hasn't really got hers yet, and she can't really understand why and what sort of the reasons behind it and things like that. And it's again about discovery and learning things and real sort of coming of age stuff in this movie. I did like it from a creative aspect, but it's not a Disney film I'm going to go back to a hell of a lot, in all honesty. But I just think it's pretty good, just not amazing. So yeah, that's Encanto. So for the last film we have now, coming up for the 60th entry, we have Strange World.
I can help you with that. Let me see. You can trust me.
So yeah, for the 60th film to be entered into the Disney roster, I thought this movie was fine. It's okay. It's not amazing or anything like that. I think the best thing about it probably is the creative imagery, as it follows this family of explorers that end up going to this, as the title would suggest, strange world, and discovering all of these creatures, all of these elements in this uncharted area. And yeah, it's good for that. It just really is a treat for the eyes. It's colourful, it's creative, but for story, it just didn't really win me over or grasp me all that much. It's an okay movie. It's just not amazing. Just don't expect, you know, what you would expect from the best of Disney, because I think you'd be sorely disappointed with it. But for me, it's just a fine film, to say the least. So yeah, that is what it is. So yeah, that's Strange World. So yeah, that's it, guys. That brings us to an end of all 60 of the animated classics put out by the studio, that is Disney. And yeah, I think there's only one thing left to do, and that is to show you what the whole collection looks like in my collection on the shelf. If you're ever interested in wanting to start a collection, if you are in the process of collecting these, or maybe you've got them all as well. But yeah, I just thought I'd give you a run through of what they look like on the shelf. So yeah, guys, this is pretty much what all of these spines look like when you put them all together. Yeah, it's really satisfying. It was really good to finally sort of complete this collection of the Disney classics. And yeah, I think they all look amazing on the shelf. It does frustrate me though that they did change the number ready for Big Hero 6. I still to this day cannot fathom why they did that or work out any sort of logic behind doing that. But it is what it is, I guess. I'm just happy to have this collection complete now, as fully as it can be. And yeah, if you're interested in collecting these, maybe you have collected them, you're in the process of collecting them. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight as to what it looks like when they're all together, because they do look, in my opinion, I think they look amazing, and they make for a great centerpiece for any sort of movie collector's collection. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. I know this video has been a bit of a long one, but yeah, going to leave it there and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.